Gotta get my bicep curls in today. That's a GPU. This thing, I felt like I was King Arthur in Monty Python's The Search for the Holy Grail, or Monty Python and the Holy Grail, trying to find this damn thing and trying to recruit people along the way to help me find the damn thing. Anyway, this is not sponsored by MSI in any way. In fact, MSI was the one brand that couldn't help me find one. Anyway, we are apparently in the arms race for who can build the most efficient way of melting a cable. So it's just another reason why living close to Micro Center, wow, so I actually can't cut the, okay. Just another reason why living close to Micro Center is kind of nice because they had one. Apparently they have a handful of them across the nation, so lucky me to spend $5,090 on a GPU. I have built high-end rigs. The original Skunkworks, I had triple Titan X Maxwells that I don't think cost as much as this as the entire rig. I'm just saying. Anyway, it's funny because its MSRP is $5,090, and they went, we're making a super limited graphics card. What should we price it at? And someone went, what if we did $5,090? And someone's like, there's profit in that number. And here's the crazier part. I'm even wearing the like updated GPU Apocalypse shirt. We put $6,800 on there as a joke. We're getting close. It was more of a prediction than a joke. I'm just saying, whatever. I wanted to benchmark this thing because as unobtainium as it is, I still am a sucker for high-end performance, and to be honest, this is probably the fastest graphics card you can currently get your fastest graphics card you can dream about potentially getting your hands on. And we also have the ROG Matrix. Now, I'm waiting on a piece that should be here tomorrow to be able to safely benchmark the Matrix. Because remember, when I did the Matrix video, I took the BTF adapter and did the whole debauer thing where I soldered jumpers onto the sense wires on it to fool the card into thinking that 2 power plugs were installed to run it in 800 watt mode. That's obviously dangerous for a single connector. I don't think 2 connectors is gonna help a lot in this instance because both connectors with the MSI card, the Lightning Z, are gonna pull 500 watts. So I have an adapter coming that basically turns the BTF connector into a like 180 degree 12 volt high power, or excuse me, 12 volt 2x6. So I'll be able to natively plug 2 12 volt 2x6s into there so I can truly benchmark that card and then compare it to the Lightning Z. Now here's the thing. The Matrix seemed really ridiculous at $4,000, $5,090. So you've got the Founders Edition, which is $2,000 if you can get your hands on it. Then you've got every other model in between there, like between $2,000 and $3,000. Then you have the Astral at $3,200 or so dollars. Then you have the Matrix at $4,000. And now you have the Lightning Z at $5,090. How did we get here? Oh, I know how. Jensen, one leather jacket at a time. Okay, let's go ahead and unbox this thing. I think I've milked the intro enough. So, thank God for the super sharp blade. This thing's actually packaged really well, and this is just an outer shell. Apparently it's like a clamshell type package. It's gonna open up and be quite the... Look, if doves don't go out of it when you open it, I'm gonna be disappointed. Or if F-35 Lightnings don't start flying out of it, I'll be very disappointed. So I'm expecting to be disappointed. Here's the cool thing. Because it wasn't sponsored, and I bought this thing with my own money, I can do whatever the hell I want with it when I'm done with it. And that includes sell it and get my money back. Built to be perfect. This is the GPU box, Phil. To open this up, we've got this little flap right here, and a little flap there, and a little flappy flap there, and a little flap there, and a little flap there, and more foam. If I'm gonna sell it, well, they'll know it's mine. All right, so here's the accessory box. Let's see what's in here. I know I'm kind of baking in an unboxing, but hell, for something like, I don't do unboxings really these days. They're boring, but this will be interesting to see. Okay, another built to be perfect. Thank you card. Magnet set, NFC card, and BIOS switch tool. That's a tool? You need a tool to switch? Oh my God. It's a mini version. Imagine this is the GPU. Well, the fans actually turn.
That's hilarious.
Dude, the bearings in that thing, still going. Okay, so it's a mini version of the Lightning right there. Okay, so we get one adapter. So that's a MSI with the yellow prong showing so that you can tell if it's not seated all the way. What is this guy? It's a GPU anti-sag bracket, which is funny because they give you a vertical mount with this. A bunch of screws for something. Okay, USB-C to USB-A, that's gonna be for your screen that's built in. Oh no, these look like these are gonna be some sort of connectors for like voltage readouts. Obviously this is more XOC related stuff, which is kind of nice because if you remember the Astro, I had to solder all that shit in there and make it myself. Okay, that's everything right there. I'm not sure which one of these is the tool. Well, this is the tool right here. I mean, but now here's what I wanna know. I think this card will probably only work with both connectors plugged in, because I was curious, like if you didn't have both connectors plugged in, would it, would it even turn on, is what I'm wondering. If this breaks on me, I'm never gonna get it replaced, like ever, sorry. I'm not even gonna register it, that way if I do sell it, somebody else can. All right, so this is probably the vertical mount, which I'm not gonna need with my test rig because it's already vertical mounted. And the reason why they want you to vertical mount it is because of the screen on the backplate. Otherwise, if the screen is horizontal in your system, it's just gonna kind of look dumb.
It's on the back plate, right?
No, it's on the front side.
Oh, the front plate.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's on the block. Then.
Yeah, so if you had it normally, like, what's happening under there, you know? But you vertical mount it and it's all right there. Okay, I'm not gonna use this or take it out, but this is basically, it does look to me, like from what I've seen, like they just teamed up with Cooler Master. It looks just like the Cooler Master adjustable vertical mount adapter that we've used in builds before. Because I've watched some videos on the setup of this. And as far as I can tell, that's what it looks like they did. They partnered with Cooler Master for it and then just put a yellow lead on there because yellow was always the lightning color or the overclocking color. So they're kind of paying a little bit of homage to their old school colorway, which was blue was like mainstream, red was gaming, and yellow was overclocking for their componentry. Now here's the funny part. I was kind of surprised that they went water cooling only with this, only because the Matrix is also an 800 watt card. Now granted, this could be 200 watts more than that. With the liquid metal or hybrid, whatever it is in there, it is very cool for an 800 watt card with 4 fans, right? 3 in the front, 1 in the back. Like, it didn't even go above the 70s when 800 watts was applied to it. So I was like, holy cow. Kind of surprised MSI didn't do an air-cooled version, but whatever, I'm sure they have their reasons. You know, just like first impressions, you only get one first unboxing. Well, it's first for me anyway. I'm really late to the party, but we need to do this in the most cinematic and dramatic way possible. Just kidding. They were too cheap to put an actual light in there. Ah, bright. So here's the card. Dude, oh my God. Okay, this is heavier than I expected it to be, I'm not gonna lie. We got a pretty good lead on and the very flexible tubing, holy cow. So we got 360 rad, looks like just a pretty standard Asetek style radiator. We've got 3 push fans. And then it is a full copper block. And then you can see here, this is the screen right there. So like I was telling you, it's on the front, not the back. The screen on the back plate. Screen on the back plate. Back plate. It's interesting to me that part's nickel and part's copper. Like, why even put a nickel plate on there? Okay, well this is number 327 out of 1300. Here are my 2 power connectors right here. And I'm not sure, oh, the tool goes down in there. Yeah, so there's OC, which is to the left, and then Extreme, which is to the right. Yeah, so this is the tool right there, which is just a pokey thingy. Okay, so this is gonna, I'm assuming, be a minimum 800 watt. Like you have to have 2 power connectors. So what we'll do now is we'll take it over to the test bench. I'm gonna do one plug first just to see what happens. I'm assuming we might get a message on the screen that just says plug in both connectors. Kind of like how on some older graphics cards, if you had the PCI Express connector obviously slotted into your motherboard, but you didn't have the PCI Express connectors in, some motherboards would actually be able to engage the card would turn on, but then just send a BIOS message during post that says, please plug in the supplemental power connector to the GPU. It's been a long time since we've seen that, but that is a thing. So let's get it over there. Okay, so I only have one cable plugged in, but already in standby, it's doing like a very sus looking lightning logo. Anyway, moving forward. With one power connector in there, it at least does that. Let's see what happens when I go to turn it on though. Okay, so it's stuck on D6, which is telling me GPU. So it's enough power. Oh wait, no, it's moving forward. It's enough power to power the card and the screen. 64. Yeah, I think post is gonna see this as like a GPU error because it's not progressing, which is kind of expected. So watch, if I plug in the other one now, it'll probably just boot right up. Okay, so both of those are in there, which every 5090 should have come this way. Every 5080 and 90 should have come that way as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, so we're already past that. So I need to reset up my GPU mode, testing mode, before we get in there. And then what I want to do is I do want to put this on our chart, even though our charts are about to change, because the matrix is on there at a plus 250 and all that. But I just want to see what this does out of the box. I don't have the stock matrix stuff on there, but like I said, I'm going to run the matrix through again when I get that adapter, and then we'll see how this thing truly compares. Okay, I wasn't really gonna show this, but I just think it's such an interesting, funny, unique situation. I'm gonna show it anyway. So let's talk about the driver slash lightning hub for the graphics card. So this card has its own control hub dedicated to it, right? So it even says on the box, like, no software necessary, no software required. It's all done through the web, which is like, okay, that's cool, I guess. But what's gonna technically happen is you're not really connected to the website as much as you're just connected to the graphics card, which is actually gonna host its own web server. But so you go to the Lightning Hub and you get download. When you click download, it simply, when you say open, it does nothing but open the Microsoft Store, which wants you to download an app. So it's like, okay, fine, let's go ahead and get the app. Downloading, preparing, 47 megabytes, cool. And then I'm not gonna open it from there. I'm gonna close all that. And let's say Lightning Hub, open. So you gotta scroll down and then say accept, and then say agree. And then all that does is link you right back to the same page we were on. Or not. Hold on, let's try that again. Did it actually not install the driver this time? No, it didn't. Wow. Wait, let me just do a restart. Yeah, it's just broken for us. Like, we cannot get it to actually display on the card. Okay, so here's an important note. Let's talk about the loop of install. And what I mean by that is, it's like, hey, go to the web page to download an app from the Microsoft Store, which then links you back to nothing but the web page. But when you install the app, it also installs the web server, right? So the web page, quote unquote, is just connecting to the card. So the card is displaying like a website, but it's not really going to the website. But one, I think that's nefarious for a couple of reasons. One, it's really boosting MSI's visits to the website. Two, it's really boosting MSI's downloads of an app. Granted, the max you could probably get is 1,300 of them, I guess. But the more important thing is we had to install the USB display driver for the card, but if it can automatically install the web server and all that sort of stuff, why wouldn't it just install the driver at the same time for that? Like, the whole idea was it to be this quick, easy, an idiot can do it. Our logic was if it's self-installing everything, it should have self-installed everything, but it didn't. So we had to go in and get the USB driver running, and now it works fine. And it is also an extended display. See, it is a Windows display. So you already saw that, right? When it brought it up on the main screen, it just didn't see the panel to stick it on. So yeah, it is technically a full-on sensor panel. Like, it's only 60 hertz, nothing crazy. I don't even know what the resolution of it is. Let me see. 1280 by 800. There, that's working now. Cool. If you want to control the fans, you do that through Afterburner. That's why there's an Afterburner link in the corner. So their own app thingy doesn't even allow you to control, right? So I can control the clock speed and stuff right here. I guess I can control fan duty cycle right here. Okay, never mind, I take that back. I wish I could see what the actual power draw was, but I can't use my PMD with this because the PMD can't handle 1,000 watts. Can't even handle 800 watts. It was shutting off on me with the Matrix. So unless I was gonna link up 2 PMDs, one for each power cable, and then just mathematically add them, which I can do if I wanted to do a full in-depth review of this, but I don't think that's gonna be all that necessary, to be honest. One thing we can't get to work though is it to actually show a power reading. It's clearly not 0 watts right now. And if I go to the hub, it's even more broken. That's when the hub actually works, I should say. It's bad, like this is bad. I mean, I'm really, really unimpressed with their software. There. See, it shows 10,000 watts for, I think that's CPU technically. So, I don't know. Even with Afterburner up, it doesn't update the wattage. All it does is override our fan profile. So, yeah, and see my voltage percent too. So you need to keep that in mind. If you're running both, and both can take control of the card, and it's even linking to Afterburner, they can conflict if you have different settings in both and they're both running. You'll cause all kinds of haywireness with your card. Let's just go here into right to 700 watts. Here's the crazy part. Right to 700 watts, but still only like a little higher than stock clocks out of the box. Although, let's be fair, this is Furmark, and Furmark does tend to only like boost the 5090s and stuff up to like 2,500, 2,400, because it does have a kind of an offset on it. So if it's hitting 3,000 in Furmark, that's already kind of crazy. Now we are also on the OC BIOS, not the Extreme BIOS, which brings us to the 1,000 watts. So let's be honest, we don't care about the 800 watt. If you want an 800 watt card, buy a Matrix. All right, let's go to everyone's favorite stress test, Heaven. Yeah, over 3,000 megahertz right off the box. It's only pulling 458 watts, that's just heaven. I'm just curious as to what kind of overclock you can actually get out of this, because if I'm not getting at least 3,350, in my opinion, with water and this BIOS, what's the point? There's really not a point to this to begin with. Like, no, I don't feel like anybody should be running 1,000 watts daily, or even 800 watts daily. 600 is plenty. I think every 5090 at 600 watts should have just had dual cables. That's the way it should have come. And I don't think anyone would have complained about that.
Yeah, that's maybe like an 8-pin and a 6-pin worth of space, which is like not even the most that. Like a lot of cards had 3 8-pins towards the end of that.
I mean, look, it's only pulling 500 and... Yeah, it's still, even on the Extreme BIOS, isn't pulling that much. So let's do this. Let's just start seeing where we can go with it, right? So let's go, a little 200, right? What can we get with the RAM? Can we get 2,000? We should. Yeah, no problem. Can I get 3,000? Because my Astral can. Yep. Can we get 300? No. That's kind of incredibly disappointing at the moment. Huh. I'm not sure there's any point in going above 800. Because guess what you're still limited by? Voltage! You don't get voltage control. Probably for a good reason. So unless you're gonna like, yeah, that's 3225. Unless you're gonna, nope, damn. Unless you're gonna XOC this card with like LN2 and stuff, I'm not sure you're ever gonna see any of the potential benefits of this. That's the crazy part. It's like the wattage. And here's the other crazy part. It's only pulling 1.045 volts where the Matrix and everything else does 1.1. I feel like that 1.1, like the fact that we're 55 millivolts under its 1.1 limit is what's holding us back right now. Like I truly do. I've never had a 5090, like the Asus cards all go to 1.1. All of my Astrals that I've ever XOC'd with, including the Matrix, go to 1.1 volts with the offset slider. I don't know why this is not going. So I just put the voltage slider back to 0% to see what happens, but I bet you it's still gonna show 1.045 because that's like the default. It's even lower at 1.03. See? If I max that slider out right now, you should see it jump up to 1.45. 1.045. There it is. We're not getting 1.1, and that's what we need. Huh. Okay, well, you know what they say. It is what it is. I'm a bit shocked. Like, I feel like throwing my Astro on there right now just to show. And it keeps crashing at 3200. That Astral right there is one of my repaired cards. And it will hit this frequency that you just saw, and it will do it at 1.1 volts. I'm just gonna throw it on there to show you guys. I'm not just, this isn't like ASUS fanboying or anything like that. It's just, this is what they are out of the box. And this, to give you additional power limit, but not go to the core max of 1.1 volts, which is what the 5090s are capable of, is absolutely a disservice to this card. Okay, so I've got my repaired Astro on there. You can see it's already higher. It's at 1.05. It was 1.55 a second ago. There it's dropping a little bit in that scene. That's because we're limited at the 600 watts. But if I go ahead and come back into here and I start pushing the clock a little bit, look, 1.060. Oh, and it crashed. Yeah, 1.1 is where I have 3 of these Astrals. 2 of them I bought for XOC, and one of them goes to 1.1 like immediately out of the box. But I'm conflicted now. Do I just hook the lightning back up, put it on the extreme BIOS, plug in both cables, and just leave it out of the box, or do we overclock it? I overclock the Matrix plus 250. I just go to where max stable was, which is what I did with the Matrix.
Yeah.
Because if you bought this card and you just let it run at 3000 megahertz out of the box, there's no performance uplift, and it's just pulling more power for no reason whatsoever. All right, fine. Lightning card, extreme BIOS. I think it's gonna end up probably being something like plus 220. It's gonna be stable. Plus 250 was crashing. It does have a lifted clock, but without lifting the voltage too.
Yeah.
It does no good. All right. The amount of money on this table alone. I've lost touch. You lost touch. I can't use any of them because I only have one computer.
You have like 7 gaming computers all at once.
So I can play 7 different games at the same time. Okay, so a couple things I want to talk about here. I'll put 2 charts up on the screen right now. I only ran Speedway and Time Spy for raster tests. It's a Port Royal, or Speedway is a ray tracing test, and then old school raster high frame rate test. And I want to point something out. I did disconnect both the monitor cable for the GPU as well as the AIO, just to make sure if the GPU is rendering any of that it doesn't interfere with the numbers at all. And that's the way I'll run the GPU test as well when we move forward. In fact, it got me thinking, I want to do a future video here where we can see just how much a multi-monitor setup can affect your gaming performance, because even if the games are not being rendered on the other panels, it is actually eating up some memory bandwidth and some throughput for your GPU, especially if you're using like a 70 tier or even a 60 tier GPU. It can actually impact your gaming performance quite a bit. But back to the non-reality of anyone struggling with, should I buy an Astral or a Matrix or a Lightning, right? It's not a real scenario people are having to deal with, but the products exist, and therefore we're gonna talk about them. So far, I am not incredibly impressed with the Lightning. In fact, if anything, I'm really impressed with the Matrix. And this is not an ROG fanboyism thing, it's just based on the 2 charts you see right here, the Matrix at 800 watts with a single cable with my soldered cheater of a plug is edging out the Lightning in those 2 tests so far. Now that, obviously I'm gonna do the entire suite for all 3 of these cards. I'm gonna include the Astral, I'm gonna include the Matrix, and I'm gonna include the Lightning, and I'm gonna include the FE, just so you can see how much the FE is the perfect baseline of what a 5090 performance out of the box is, expected to be by NVIDIA's standards, right? That's their own GPU. It's not even a reference card, it's a custom PCB. But it's crazy to me that so far, the Matrix is winning, at least in a couple of synthetics. It's 2 tests, but I fully believe it is everything to do with the voltage limit. For whatever reason, this card is not going to 1.1 volts. It's not something you can force either. In fact, I've had plenty of discussion with Splave about this when I was doing XOC stuff, where I was like, man, why is one of my cards going right to 1.1 volts and the other one's only going to 1.65, 1.75? And he was like, it's just the way they are, man. That's how some of them are. And the ASIC quality really plays into that. I could probably get 3 lightnings and get 3 different voltages on all 3 of them because of different just basic quality and binning. So, what?
Just imagining the like price tag on 3 lightning.
I could borrow 3 lightnings and, but what I'm gonna do is when the adapter comes, I'm going to hook this up properly, safely, so I'm not running 800 watts continuous through a single cable, so that I can truly do like, I would say the Battle of the Titans, but that's actually an NVIDIA product, so just call it the Battle of the Imaginary Zeus cards, if you will. I don't know. ROG likes to use a lot of the Greek naming too, so they might actually have a Zeus card in the works. I don't know. Anyway, it's just funny how on the table right now, the Astral's like, oh, but I thought I was your favorite. You're the cheapest one on the table, but you're the most expensive of the regular 5090s. It's such a weird paradox right now. Also too, I'm never gonna make my money back on this card on this video, or any of the videos I'm doing in the future, because no videos ever make $5,000. There's not even a sponsor on this video. But I do this stuff because I'm an enthusiast. I enjoy learning more about the nuances of some of this stuff. And as of today, that is the most, I was gonna say the fastest 5090 that you can get. No, it has the highest power limit and it's the most expensive one you can buy before you jump up to Blackwell 6000. But I think it's gonna be quite an interesting battle to see what happens with this card on air versus that card with a higher power limit on water. And so far, initial results look like either this one's a golden bin and that one's just an average bin. Matrix might win this one, which is kind of crazy. The downside, there is a downside to everything. There's 2 sides to every Schwartz. There's the upside, the downside. He got the upside, I got the downside. Anyway, sorry. Spaceballs 2 coming out, can't wait for that. So this card has 2 plugs that are standard on the top of it. This card requires you to either get their adapter, which is not even technically released yet, but it takes the BTF connector and basically it looks like the adapter that sticks out, but then it does a 180 12 volt 2x6 that sits right here. So I can have one plugged in there and one plugged in there. It's not a ideal scenario because you have a cable running across the back plate and it's kind of ugly. But that's because I guess ASUS just assumes you're gonna automatically buy into their ecosystem of going with the BTF board, which clearly we are not using. So I have to get the adapter to do that correctly. I also have a BTF of a 5090 Astral, which makes me wonder, I'm kind of curious, maybe I'll do a short or something on this. It's just like the Matrix, where it has the adapter on the bottom and then it has a standard 12 volt 2x6 on top. I'm curious because you can use either or. If I were to plug them both in, right, with that adapter, would it split the load between the cables? If it does, then that would probably be the safest 5090 solution, where you're only pulling 300 watts per cable. So it's almost like ASUS realized not everyone's gonna buy into the BTF format, and so they had to come up with an adapter for it, in some case, I guess. But for the Matrix, definitely. I would be surprised though if people that are buying into the Matrix, you'd have to be like an ROG fanboy really to like want this. I wouldn't be surprised if they're running it on a BTF anyway with both connectors plugged in. Anyway, time to go, time to get out of here. This is only my first impressions of the Lightning so far, and my impressions are, there's not a whole lot of juice to be squeezed out of that piece of fruit, if you know what I'm saying. It's kind of like saying, well, we're gonna go ahead and put a 10,000 RPM rev limiter on this engine, but then we're gonna limit you mechanically to only going to about 7,000 RPM. It's kind of what it feels like with this. Like the power limit kind of means nothing if the voltage doesn't scale up to at least what the core is capable of 1.1. And my XOC, this card, which is still running and going great after hundreds of passes, I ran at 1.25 volts and never damaged it. Well, the connector, yes, but the core, 1.25 volts. MSI, you can run 1.1, maybe even 1.25. Why? Why is it 1045? I was hoping maybe by disconnecting the monitor or something that would like relieve some of the power or something going. No, because the core is independent. So I don't know why it's only 1.45. If any of the other reviewers are watching this and you have a Lightning, right, that you got or received or bought or whatever, I'm curious, are you all seeing 1.045 or are some of you seeing higher voltages? This card might just be a lemon as far as I'm concerned in its capability.
And we were talking about this offline. At this price point, it should be binned.
At this price point, it should absolutely be balls to the wall, max out everything. I'm sorry, this is for $5,090. It is not expected to be, it looks pretty and it has a cool screen and it's just for those people that really love MSI. I don't think anyone loves MSI that much.